Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our Tech Tuesday. And we're finishing off the year tonight. This will be our last session on this Tuesday recording. And I've got a special guest star as usual. We've been focusing a lot on business. And obviously, this time of the year, we reflect back and we also look forward. We don't reflect back and go, oh, we reflect back and we learn from past errors, past lapses in judgment, as Mark Hazel always puts it, school fees. And some school fees are a little bit more expensive than others. But there's no failures, there's just learning experiences. So I thought I've been listening to a couple of very interesting podcasts just recently. And I don't know if anybody's ever heard of Ed Mylett. He's a motivational speaker and trainer overseas. And I thought I'd let him share a little bit tonight. And just to basically put us in the right mindset for obviously this time of the year, prepping goals and things for next year, and obviously planning. That's what I'm going to be doing for the next couple of weeks is planning for next year, just getting everything in order and trying to get a little bit more organized. Say that every year, and then the wheels sort of fall off at midway through January. But we're going to try. And if we don't try, we never get there. So I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to have Ed Mylett just give us a little bit of a boost. Share the sound. Let's just hide that. And he's going to be telling us how to train our mind and how to produce results, because that, after all, is what we are looking for. And hopefully it'll play.
One of the key strategies in my entire life of producing the results that I've been blessed to produce is visualization. Mental rehearsal. Mental rehearsal and visualization is one of the greatest gifts you could give yourself, and it's a great hack to producing the results that you want. We all have fears. We all have insecurities. These fears and insecurities will find a way to express themselves one way or the other. And so the reason that we want to make sure that we're doing mental rehearsal and visualization regularly in our life is so that when we get there, we're familiar and we're likely to move towards that result we've already visualized. If we only take visualization about our fears and worries, which is what most people do, you will move towards those because you're familiar with them as well. Wayne Rooney, who's one of the most legendary players of all time, he would take his visualization to a level that blew most people's minds. And he would literally get with the equipment manager before a game and ask him, what uniform are we going to be wearing? And so he would get the actual uniform and know what it looked like. He would also want to know what music they were going to be playing when they came out. And then he would also want to know the weather. So he would then get back and the night before the games would visualize that uniform, would visualize that music playing, would visualize that weather, so that when he got there, it was all familiar to him.
AI will create more millionaires in 5 years than the internet did in 20. Disappear for a month and do this instead.
Begin to ask yourself, when I visualize, do I see it in black or white or color? Make some distinctions about what you're seeing. Can I feel things? Do I smell things? Do I hear things? Can I take this picture that I'm seeing, this result I want to produce, this award I want to win? And the more you just kind of play with your ability to visualize, the more it becomes a muscle. Zoom in, zoom out, change the color. Add some music to it, right? Speed it up, slow it down, and then just repeatedly see something over and over again. It'll serve you. But the more you prepare, you will begin to move towards what you're most familiar with. And what's great about that is anxiety level goes down. And your brain, your subconscious mind at least, doesn't know the difference between what you're imagining and what's actually happening. But the more you get good at it, maybe it gets more specific, where you can even see when you help somebody out in your business, them thanking you and the smile on their face. Maybe you can begin to feel what it feels like with their gratitude, right? I'll have athletes often, I'll say, did you make the putt? How did it feel? Fist pump that thing, lock it in, right? So the more you do it, the more it grows as something you build as a habit. But I'm telling you, life is a whole lot better when you focus on what's going on inside of you as opposed to what's going on around you. And the more we just get internal, we begin to take some measure of control over the mental images we're feeding ourselves, the more we can produce a result that's in congruence with our goals. So, hey guys, are you frustrated with where you're at right now? Maybe stunted in your progress? Well, if you are, I want to recommend a place for you to go called Growth Day. growthday.com/Ed. It is the #1 personal development app on the planet. It's got all kinds of high performance techniques in there, courses, accountability, journaling, live speeches from some of the top influencers in the world, including me. It's an overall environment to change your life. growthday.com/Ed. Welcome back to the show, everybody. I'm excited to spend some time with you today covering something that you all ask about often, which is the topic of visualization. And I think it's a topic that most people don't understand, nor do they take advantage of. One of the key strategies in my entire life of producing the results that I've been blessed to produce has a lot to do. One of the key strategies is visualization, mental rehearsal, and understanding how to do it, understanding the power of it, and the reasons why you should be doing more mental rehearsal, more visualization. You know, I'm blessed that I've had an opportunity to coach a lot of top CEOs, entrepreneurs, entertainers, and yes, a lot of athletes, and whether that be in the UFC, in the MMA, or a golfer, baseball player, I get asked often, what do you work on with a lot of these athletes? And although we work on a variety of different things, one of them is visualization, because it's really an accepted practice in sports that you visualize things. But most people, you can ask yourself this to begin, how much visualization do you do in a directed, intentional way? In other words, you're visualizing things, your problems, your worries, your fears, you're visualizing an appointment, let's just say. But how often are you doing that proactively? Are you using it as a strategy for peak performance, a strategy for bliss, a strategy to be more productive and serve more people? Mental rehearsal and visualization is one of the greatest gifts you could give yourself, and it's a great hack to producing the results that you want. Because the truth of the matter is, you are more than likely producing right now what you've already been visualizing. And so taking control of that and harnessing control of it is a really, really big deal. And why? Because we all have fears. We all have insecurities. These fears and insecurities will find a way to express themselves one way or the other. And so if we can't take control of our fears and our insecurities, and we don't build up mental rehearsal and visualization of the things we want, the things that give us confidence, one or the other are going to end up expressing themselves. That's why it's so important that you really learn to take control of your mental rehearsal and visualization. And why is that the case? Here's the deal. You move towards what you're most familiar with in your life. Okay. So there's a degree of familiarity in our lives that we move towards what's comfortable, what's safe, what's most familiar to us, because it requires the least amount of thinking. Your brain really wants to operate and conserve energy as much as it can. So the more things it can do habitually without having to think, the easier it is on your brain. And so it's constantly trying to get you to move towards what's familiar. And so if what's most familiar to you is your fears, your worries, your anxieties, your insecurities, you will move towards them. If you wonder whether that's accurate or not, we try to avoid things that are unfamiliar to us. People have asked me, oh my gosh, I saw that golfer, he had a putt to win the golf tournament from 5 feet, and he missed it. And he missed it for 2 reasons. Either he was very familiar with the mental rehearsal and the visualization he or she was of missing, and they programmed that fear in, so they moved towards what was familiar, and which was missing the putt. Or they didn't do any mental rehearsal whatsoever, and when they got into that pressure situation, their brain was not familiar with that environment, with that situation, and so it wasn't able to function at its optimal level. And so the reason that we want to make sure that we're doing mental rehearsal and visualization regularly in our life is so that when we get there, we're familiar and we're likely to move towards that result we've already visualized. If we don't, if we only take visualization about our fears and worries, which is what most people do, you will move towards those because you're familiar with them as well. Or the absence of any preparation, when you walk into a meeting to give a presentation, you've not mentally rehearsed the result. You've not visualized the result. If you've not done that, you've left it up to your own devices, and more than likely, because you're unfamiliar, your brain cannot perform at its optimal level. So that's why mental rehearsal, preparation, because your body doesn't know, your subconscious mind does not know the difference between what's real and what's imagined. And so the more you rehearse it, The more your brain believes, your mind believes that you've already done it, you've already accomplished it. So when you enter the environment, you enter the situation, you will gravitate and more move towards what's most familiar. So hey guys, are you looking for more optimization in your life? If you are, try Bond Charge. Bond Charge is a holistic wellness brand, huge range of evidence-based products that help you get more energy, perform better, recover faster. I love their infrared sauna blanket. It's what I've been using now for a while when I hurt my back. It's the perfect way to detoxify, reduce stress, improve your overall well-being. It's also very easy to use. You just set it up in like a minute. You can enjoy a 30 to 40-minute session. You're going to love it. You'll feel more relaxed, revitalized, and less stressed. It's a really good addition to any wellness routine. By the way, all the products are HSA, FSA eligible for pre-tax savings up to 40%. So go to bondcharge.com and use coupon code ED to save 15%. That's BON. Think about it this way. How much thinking do you do when you walk into a room full of strangers?
Let's shine the light on the Nagara Karuchi Nakiri. Nagara has an incredible history dating back over 300.
Right? You walk in, you don't know anybody in there. You're pulling up to an event and you don't know a soul. You're going to walk into a room with 50 or 100 people. You're doing some thinking, aren't you? You're thinking about, well, how would I introduce myself? Is my hair the right way? Did I do my makeup correctly? What's a story that I could tell tonight that's funny? What if they ask me this? Your anxiety and nervousness level goes up no matter who you are, right? Because of the unknown, the unfamiliar. And so what happens is you just start thinking and going into pattern mode. You're going into mapping mode because where you're going is unfamiliar. Now compare how much thinking you do when you walk into a room like that compared to just walking through your front door to your house where everybody's familiar. Do you really even have to think about it? When you walk from your kitchen to the living room where your family is, do you do any thinking whatsoever? Does your heart rate go up at all? Is there anything in your body that's changing from a neurobiochemistry standpoint? No, you're almost doing zero thinking because you're familiar with it. And so in life, if you can begin to become that familiar like you are with your own family and friends, with your dreams, your goals, and your ambitions, or maybe it's as simple as just a specific result in one occasion, the more you've done that, the more you're not going to have to think nearly as much and process information. This is really called mapping. And so life is really better when you don't focus on what's going on around you, but you focus on what's going on inside of you. Okay, so think about that for a second. Life is always better when you don't focus on what's going on around you, but you focus on what's going on inside of you. So there's this great story that my producer was sharing with me. He's a big soccer fan, about Wayne Rooney, who's one of the most legendary players of all time. And he said he would take his visualization to a level that blew most people's minds. And he would literally get with the equipment manager before a game and ask him, what uniform are we going to be wearing? And so he would get the actual uniform and know what it looked like. He would also want to know what music they were going to be playing when they came out, when they're getting ready to play. He would want to know the exact song. And then he would also want to know the weather. So he would then get back and the night before the games would visualize that uniform, would visualize that music playing, would visualize that weather, so that when he got there, it was all familiar to him. You know, a lot of athletes and people ask me, should I only visualize me getting the yes? Because I'm mapping, making the putt, making the putt, making the putt, or hitting the shot, or having the knockout, or closing the sale, or, you know, getting whatever it is that you want. Should I only visualize the positive things? And that's a really interesting thing, because the way your brain works, it actually probably serves you most to be always visualizing the positive result. I do think that it's okay sometimes in life to also visualize something that isn't favorable. So in other words, because it's going to happen. So do I let my athletes, about 10% of the time, I will say, okay, let's hit a bad shot. We've hit a bad shot. What happens in our body? Now we're walking to that shot. How do we deal with it? And so they now are able to deal with something that's inevitable. Or if it's one of our fighters, and I go, listen, you just had the first, it's bad round. He got to you. You took a couple shots. Looks like he lost round one. You're sitting on the stool. Bam. How do we shift that and visualize from there? Because if you don't visualize some of the unforeseen circumstances that take place and your response to it, in my opinion, when that happens and it's unfamiliar territory, you're lost. But if you say, no, I've been there before. I've missed this putt before. I've missed a shot before. In sales, it's okay to visualize them not always saying yes, but objecting and giving you a reason for not doing it. They may have a question or a concern, right? So I don't think it's a negative thing sometimes. I don't want to pattern this where it's a pattern I've created, But I think it's okay to, in sales, visualize getting a no or an objection, or in a sport, having a failure happen, and then from there, what you need to visualize. So that when the inevitable happens, because life happens, you're going to miss a sale. You're going to not hit every putt. Not every at-bat's going to be a base hit, right? Not every shot's going to be in the basket. And so it's okay to say, okay, I just missed the shot. What do I visualize from there? So we're not really visualizing the miss. We're visualizing it's happened, what feels in my body. I know what that is. Now, what do I do? And so, because you'll watch in sports, most of the great athletes, it's not that they don't miss. It's what they do after they miss. It's not in life whether you're going to miss or get rejected or have a difficult circumstance or situation. It's what do you do when it happens? And so I think it's okay that you spend a little bit of time in that zone, and then your visualization is your way out of there. So we're not visualizing misses. What I'm suggesting is that you're visualizing, okay, I've just missed. Now visualize the way out. Mentally rehearse the way out. I think you can spend a little bit of time on that, just like the great Wayne Rooney did. I'll tell you one more story, and I don't know whether this is accurate or not. I don't remember the man's name, and I'm sure I'm messing the story up, so forgive me. But I think the premise of the story and the point that it illustrates is valid. And so the story goes, I was told this many years ago, that there was evidently a soldier who had spent some time in a POW camp. And when he was there, in order to keep himself sane, frankly, he would mentally rehearse and visualize himself playing an entire 18-hole golf course round of golf. And again, this is just a story that I was told.
If you're still typing your coding prompts, you're leaving performance on the table. You're prompting cursor over 100 times a day, but typing...
I hope I'm giving it justice. And the point of the story is that it illustrates the power of visualization. And even if I'm off by the facts a little bit, indulge me a little bit here. But he would visualize playing each shot throughout the day, mentally rehearse and visualize it. And many years later, when he got out of the POW camp, he went home. I believe it was to Texas, somewhere in the Midwest, and his body was totally atrophied. He had no muscle mass left. He had lost considerable weight. He had been obviously hurt and injured and beaten when he was in the camp. And one of the first things he asked to do when he got on his feet was to go play golf. And the story goes that he went out in that first round of golf, shot even par. And afterwards they asked him, how in the world did you do that? You've lost 50 pounds. You've had all these injuries. You've had this terrible mental battle you've had to go through. And he goes, it's easy. I haven't missed a putt in 4 years. Because what he had done is mentally rehearsed when he was playing those rounds, making that putt, hitting that shot. Now, whether or not that's an accurate story or not, I don't know. But what I can tell you is that it's illustrative, that I've seen something like that in many athletes and many business people's lives, where in spite of external circumstances, they've controlled the inside so well that when they, like I've said, they focus on the inside, that when these variables happen, which is life, a failure, a setback, an unforeseen situation, that they're comfortable because they haven't missed a putt in years when they visualize their way out of that. And so inside of you, you can visualize. So give yourself the gift on a more regular basis of mentally rehearsing the meeting you're going to go to. Do it 3, 4, 5, 6 times and actually sit in that visualization. Ask yourself questions when you visualize, by the way. The way you get better at it is you do more of it. In the beginning, when we're visualizing or mentally rehearsing, we're not very good at it because we haven't done it before. We get distracted easily, or we don't even realize, we don't even take control of what we're seeing. But begin to ask yourself, when I visualize, do I see it in black or white or color? I mean, make some distinctions about what you're seeing. Can I feel things? Do I smell things? Do I hear things? Can I take this picture that I'm seeing, this result I want to produce, this award I want to win, this situation I want to get out of a date that I'm going on, this, potential sale that I've got, this baseball I want to hit, this putter. When you watch it, start to ask yourself and take a look at what you're seeing. Like, for example, where's the camera? That'd be interesting, huh? Do you see the camera where you're looking at it out there? So you see it from your own perspective? Or do you see it from the person's situation who's watching you? Do you see it from above? Just taking advantage, and you go, wow, I never thought about that before. Well, think about it. It'll help you take better control. When I work with athletes, when they're baseball hitters, I'll often ask them, I'll say, close your eyes and visualize, hit a line drive up the middle. And they'll go, great, I did it. And they'll open their eyes. I go, okay, good. Where was the camera? And they're like, huh? I said, where was the camera? I don't know. I said, well, let's close your eyes and do it again. I said, the camera could be a lot of different places. The camera could be you in the batter's box and you're seeing out at the pitcher in the field. It could be like you watch baseball on TV because you're familiar with it. And it's behind the center field fence looking over the pitcher into the catcher. It could even be the view you get on deck. But the first thing is to at least see what you see. Now you have a chance to play the video. And so I'll ask them, can you see what you see? Yes. Okay. And they say, well, nope, it's for me in the batter's box. Awesome. So then we know, and we go much more detailed than this, but it's beginning to just see what you see, hear what you hear or don't hear, smell what you smell or don't smell, right? For the most part, most people can very quickly go, I see things in black and white, or I see them in color, and then just start to take control of what it looks like. And then the only other thing to ask yourself, if you want to really reinforce a visualization, is you could speed it up a little bit, or you could slow it down. You could zoom in if you wanted to. And the more you just kind of play with your ability to visualize, the more it becomes a muscle. Zoom in, zoom out, change the color, add some music to it, right? Speed it up, slow it down, and then just repeatedly see something over and over again. It'll serve you. And so it's something that I teach the athletes that I do. It's not very complicated. It's just basically starting to take control of your mind's eye, of what you think about. You don't have to be very specific with it. It could just be the same thing you see every time. But the more you prepare, you will begin to move towards what you're most familiar with. And what's great about that is anxiety level goes down. And your brain, your subconscious mind, it doesn't know the difference between what you're imagining and what's actually happening. And so you actually can get a hit every time you're up to the plate. You can make a putt every single time you stand over it. You can get a yes. And the more specific, when you start with a visualization, oftentimes in the beginning, they'll be very general, but the more you get good at it, maybe it gets more specific, where you can even see when you've helped somebody out in your business, them thanking you and the smile on their face. Maybe you can begin to feel what it feels like with their gratitude, right? I'll have athletes often, I'll say, did you make the putt? How did it feel? Fist pump that thing, lock it in, right? So the more you do it, the more it grows as something you build as a habit. It doesn't need to be any more complicated than that. But I'm telling you, life is a whole lot better when you focus on what's going on inside of you as opposed to what's going on around you. And the more we just get internal, we begin to, take some measure of control over the mental images we're feeding ourselves, the more we can produce a result that's in congruence with our goals. So I hope today helped you. I want to challenge you just to begin to do a little bit more visualization, just the concept of it, a little bit more mental rehearsal, and begin to train yourself to produce the results that you want in your life as you move towards the thing you're most familiar with, which is what you want instead of what you don't want. All right, everybody. God bless you. Max out.
All right. How's your visualization?
It's probably the most important tape to listen to this whole year, Sean. I promise you.
I thought that was a good way of ending the year on a high.
Absolutely.
So it's something that we can look at and just practice over the next couple of weeks. Visualize where we're going to be, visualize what we're going to do, who we're going to speak to, what their answers are going to be. It does take some practice, but it's quite fun when you start to let your mind go.
The other thing is, Charlie Bolton says, don't talk what you don't want or what you've got. You've got to visualize what you want, not what you've got.
Yes.
So the reverse effect is if you keep seeing misery and doom and gloom, that's what you're going to get.
Correct.
I don't know how it works, but it's absolutely true. What you told us.
Well, at Bloemfontein, Charlie brought a lady up. It was quite sort of off the cuff. I think she'd been in one of the Acres sessions, and he said, "Come up here because I want you to talk to these people." And she brought up one of those plastic sleeve books. It was like a little A5 book, and he said, "I want you to show them your goals and dreams." And she went through, and she had taken photos. And she had photoshopped herself into the things. She said, "There's my picture." And she said when she had done it, she said, "There's my picture of when I was at Acres. I did that a few months before then. There's my picture of me standing on the stage. And she showed it to us. She said, there's my picture of me standing next to Charlie on the stage at Bloemfontein. And she'd done that as a Photoshop months before. And it was, I thought that was a brilliant idea, because with technology today, it's so simple. You can take a selfie, take a photo, whatever, and just Photoshop it into where you're going to be, what you're going to be doing. It makes it easier with the visualization if your imagination isn't too developed like mine.
I can remember when Don and I went to Sapphire, he said to, kept saying to John, just buy her a blue dress or whatever dress, John, a blue dress. Just, and then see yourself going over the stage. And then every time we didn't qualify or something, he said, how did you feel when you went over the stage? Terrified. I'm proud, And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it's true what he said.
So we should hopefully have a little bit of downtime. I'm hoping to have a bit of downtime. So let's practice the visualization.
Good, good, so. Well done.
I'm going to stop recording now.